Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4. So we are finalizing your project 1. So project 1 is coming to completion here this week, and we're also going to be talking about methods of collecting survey data, and just a busy week. So let's get started. So yay, you're watching the video. Good job, you. Pat on the back. Gold star. So study resources. Make sure you print off these notes and then watch the video following along, taking any notes, just so make sure that you understand hypothesis testing, error, and kind of how they fit together. So it's really important concepts, especially, read the big picture to hypothesis and hypothesis testing right here. In all honesty, this is kind of the basics of like everything we're doing here. Null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. This is like the basics, like that everything builds off of. So this is really good information. It might hurt your brain a little. That's okay. It's your brain making new connections. So keep pushing through. You can do it, but it's important that you understand this information because this information is just going to keep coming back again and again and again for the rest of the semester. So it's really important that you get this information. So your assignments for this week, methods of collecting survey data. So for our next project, and I know we're kind of thinking ahead, but also this will help for when you write up your next or your project 1 as well. But so project 2, Guns in America, we'll be asking people some questions. But before we start asking people questions, we need to think about the best way to do this. So what methods should we use to collect our class data? So to do this, I want you to review this resource in this article, and then briefly address the pros and cons of the different types of survey methods, so mail, internet, telephone, face-to-face combination, and then discuss which type of survey methods you think would work best to collect the data for our class project. So literally, I want you guys arguing out which way do you think we should collect the data for our class project. And you know what? Whatever we as a class decide on, that is when we go to actually collect the data for our Project 2 Guns in America, that's literally how we will collect our data. So whatever we decide here in this discussion is actually important because it will decide how we do collect our data there. So take this seriously, and I look forward to this discussion. So then what is the finalizing of Project 1? So I guess over here, so Project 1. So for Project 1, the ultimate goal is to describe the distance to Richland data we collected. Remember, this needs to be in full sentence paragraph. So here are some questions to consider. Hopefully this is stuff that you've already kind of done from last week, but this is also a chance if you didn't do well on last week or if you'd like to do more for the final project, here's your chance. But the information to include, which is the really important stuff, you need a title page, an introduction, should be a brief explanation of what the purpose of the research was, what you hope to find. Methodology, who was the data collected from? So who are our subjects here in this case? How was the data collected? What were the questions people were asked? What were the answer options for each question? Did you have to create any new variables? What were the demographics, so gender and political affiliation of the sample, and the percents for each group? Then for the results, include a heading for each question you looked at. So for each of the questions that you then did the Minitab analysis for, you need a heading for each one of those. Then a hypothesis. So remember, we're learning about hypotheses. So in fact, in this case, I'll update this, a null and alternative hypothesis about what you thought the results would be, and then the actual results. Make sure to explain what your results mean in terms of your original hypothesis. Then conclusion, overall, what did you learn from this project? Play critical thinker. Try to address any potential issues someone might bring up against your report based on the methods of how the data was collected and the sample population. And overall, do you think your results can be generalized to the larger population? And if so, what? So if you're trying to remember or kind of get a feel for what this should look for, if you remember way back in week 1, you did that article review homework. That information should hopefully now come back in week 4 and make sense. That's why I had you do that in week 1, so that way when we got here, you would have a better idea about what you're doing for this. You should better understand what these different parts of the paper are and what type of information you should include. So there is your Project 1, Distance to Richland final report. So we're finishing that one up. Okay, so what else do you have? You have some homework today, or this week. It's pick whether the original claim is the null or alternative, then provide the complementary claim. Example, if the original claim is the null, then the complementary is the alternative. This is what the questions are, so you can print this out ahead of time, but you will actually do it as a quiz. So even though it's homework, it kind of looks like a quiz. Big thing here, you only get one attempt. So one attempt. So multiple attempts, no. You get one attempt, but there's no time limit. So you can come in and out as much as you want. You can print this off first and fill it out first, but one attempt. So don't mess that up. Then the Chapter 2 Quiz 1 is kind of similar, so that's another reason I want you to do this hypothesis activity, because then when you come to do this one, hopefully you should do really well. Remember, you get 5 attempts. It is the average. I think, ooh, I just see that I need to update that time. That's not right. Okay, so I hope this is a good kind of overview of everything going on for week 4. If you have any questions or you need something, let me know. And have fun writing your report. I hope you get creative and come up with some interesting things. Can't wait to see it.